How's it going, guys? My name is Graham and welcome to Two Left Thumbs. I'm doing something a little bit different today. So there's a lot of news buzzing around in the comic book world. Supposedly, as of today, when I'm planning to upload this video, Disney will have bought the rights back to Fantastic Four and X-Men from Fox. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but there's other videos dedicated to that. I'm not going to explain it all. Generally, they are just going to be coming back to Marvel, though. Sure, there might be a little bit of red tape, and sure, it might be a year and a half or more until they can even start talking about building new movies using these characters. It's a little bit messy, but let's pretend that it isn't. I've been geeking out over this really hard for like at least a month, really hard over the last week when this became kind of like a certainty. And so I started thinking, who would I want to see play the characters, the main four from the Fantastic Four and a bunch of the new X-Men. Now, I will say I don't have like an encyclopedic knowledge of all the actors and actresses out there, so what I mostly did is I thoroughly searched for as many other fan castings as I could, unless I felt like I had a really good inspired idea of my own, then I stuck it in there, but mostly this is me pulling my top picks out of other people's picks. It should also be worth noting that people probably will have heard of 90+% of the actors and actresses, because that's the easiest way to fan cast. Did I have any idea who Tom Holland, Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, any number of the other Marvel characters? Did I know who they were before they got cast as the roles they're playing now? No, not really. You know, that's the job of a casting director, is to find undiscovered talent like that. And so my guess is that majority of these roles are going to end up going to people that you haven't heard of before. Hey, maybe Reed Richards will be someone famous, and maybe Cyclops will be someone famous, you know, just to get some extra interest. But Marvel doesn't really need that anymore. If they really feel like they have an unknown on their hands like Tom Holland, who maybe can't entirely sell a movie on their own, then you just throw in Robert Downey Jr. or one of the people that everyone does know at this point. So I thought this would be a fun list to put together, and then, you know, in a few years' time or however long, we can look back and see if I got any of them right. I'm proud of some of these picks, but also thinking of the fact that casting directors are going to be going so far out, I doubt I'll get many, if any, of these correct. So I'm going to start us off with the Fantastic Four. Fox recently tried to do their young iteration of the Fantastic Four, and I thought that was very stupid. It was a dumb idea. I think the Fantastic Four should be a group of adults like early 30s, possibly pushing 40s. And I know that this family is going to be a group of characters that Marvel's going to want to make movies with for like probably 10 years or so. But I have to think of the fact that Robert Downey Jr. was in his early 40s and he's still kicking around. So I wasn't really sure which way to lean, so I kind of put together a young and old cast list here. So I was starting with my younger cast list. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. I would go with Richard Madden. I mean, he's got enough of the look, I'm not too concerned about that. He's mostly shown that he can play an intense leadership role. It'd be cool to see him start to branch out a little bit more after his success with Game of Thrones. He was really popular at the time. For my Sue Storm, I would actually go with Samara Weaving. Just this year, about a few weeks apart, I saw her in both The Babysitter and 3 Billboards. She played very different characters in both, and I was very impressed with both. I think she might be a bit of a rising star, and it would be pretty cool to see her as Sue Storm. Now, I had a lot of trouble casting my older version of Johnny Storm, because I think there's so many strong actors who could fill the role there, but I only have one choice for my young Human Torch, and that's Ansel Elgort. God, he was just charming as all hell in Baby Driver. It doesn't matter to me that he's not ripped out of his mind and not like the handsomest man like Liam Hemsworth or something. I think he would knock that cocky swagger out of the park. He would be so good in this role. Now, I'm kind of having the opposite problem with Ben Grimm, The Thing. I feel like I have a really strong choice of who I want to play the older version, and I really just could not nail down a good choice for a young Ben Grimm. But so far, I've been super impressed with Taron Egerton. Now, I saw Taron show up on a few people's lists as Johnny Storm, and I get it because of the cocky swagger and everything. He's kind of a big guy, and I think he could bring a cool physicality to the role. I mostly just like him as an actor and would like to see him do more major roles. And I was struggling casting The Thing anyways, so I don't know, maybe there's a chance that would work. And while we're casting the family of 4 there, we might as well cast Dr. Doom as well. I'm actually a pretty huge fan of Toby Kebbel, and I'm super bummed that he played the shittiest possible version of Doctor Doom. Just awful. I feel like he was majorly wasted there, but we have to scrap all the past castings. We can't have any repeats because it'll just confuse the hell out of everyone. And I don't think I ever would have come up with this, but I saw someone point out Aidan Turner, and they managed to convince me that he would be pretty cool in the role. You know how there's some actors out there like Rufus Sewell who just look like a bad guy? They just never don't look like they're a bad guy. But Aidan Turner has this like sweet guy's face that can just turn so menacing on a dime. I don't want Doctor Doom to be someone who's just like a villain's villain, you know? He needs to be pretty humanized. And I think Aidan Turner could bring something really cool to that. He's also not that young, he's 34. But I thought he was a cool pick, and he's pretty close in age to Richard Madden. And then him and Richard could just be like, you know, a little bit like a couple years older than everyone else. Alright, on to my old, you know, late 30s, early 40s casting of the Fantastic Four, which is the direction I think Marvel will more likely go. Now, everyone has been pointing at John Krasinski. He is at the top of most of these fan casting lists. And if he was going to play anyone, Mr. Fantastic would be a pretty good fit. But I don't know. I don't know if I really see it. It would be a cool redemption after he didn't get the part for Captain America, but I just don't know if I see it. One of my favorite picks that I saw anyone give was Colin Hanks. Felt like a very inspired choice. He's really proved himself as an actor over the last few years. I have no doubts that he would do some pretty cool things with this, and he would be like kind of a father figure for the group, maybe not as much of a leader. My number one choice is Patrick Wilson. I just love Patrick Wilson, and I know that he could just own every aspect of this character. I wanted to mention those other picks because they were interesting and they're good picks, but for me, it would be Patrick Wilson. Now, Sue Storm, lots of other common picks for this one. Lots of people pointing out Alice Eve and Rosamund Pike. Two great actresses, two awesome picks. I would maybe tend to lean more towards Alice Eve, but I think that's one of those things where me and other people have just seen her with the short blonde hair, and that comes to mind a lot with the Invisible Woman, and so you kind of start to think that that would be a good casting just because of that. I'm sure she'd be great in the role, but I think maybe Eliza Coupe would be a more interesting choice. She's a little bit less known, a little bit more mysterious. I remember her back in Scrubs. She had this like edge on her, and it would be fun to see a little bit of that on Sue. So I think I would lean towards her. Narrowing down Johnny Storm was the hardest possible thing. I didn't like a lot of the choices that people had circulating. One of the top ones I did see repeatedly was Zac Efron. In a lot of ways, he really would be perfect for the role. But I also feel like in a lot of ways, he would start to become the focus of the movie. I think he's kind of almost too big of a star for the role, which is, you know, kind of unfortunate for him. But I can't help but think that the advertising would suddenly become Zac Efron and, you know, those other three. Liam Hemsworth was kind of a cool choice. You know, just as long as he's dressed up enough that people don't start to think that Johnny Storm and Thor are related. Two actors that I was kind of trying to fit around just because I like them were Alan Ritchson and Wyatt Russell. I've seen great things from both of them. They're super impressive actors that I wish did more. I could maybe see Wyatt in the role. I don't know if it's a great fit. And Alan Ritchson is maybe too jacked. I mean, Johnny Storm should definitely be in shape, but he shouldn't make the Thing look like a bitch. My top choice is actually Scott Eastwood. He's been living a little bit under the shadow of his dad. It's interesting, usually that gives you a leg up in Hollywood, but here people are just treating him as Clint's son, and they're not really giving him an opportunity. Hey, he probably did get his first roles because of his dad, but since then I think he's started to form his own personality a little bit and become more of his own thing. He's handsome as hell, charming as hell, and due for a breakout. I think he'd be a sweet Johnny Storm. Now, the thing for me is hard, because either this guy is going to be entirely CGI, or he's only going to be on screen as a human for a short while. I kind of really loved Michael Chiklis in the role, because he worked as both Ben and as the Thing. There was something about his voice that added that graveliness to it that I thought was super perfect for the role. It's just a shame he was in such shitty movies. One of the most inspired choices I saw was David Denman. I pretty much only know him as Roy from The Office. But he's a big, physical, intimidating guy. He would own it. He would be pretty sweet in that role. But I think if you're looking for someone to really sell the part, Kevin Durand is the way to go. The dude's a beast. He's intense. I wouldn't want to get in a fight with the guy. I think he would be perfect. That one kind of felt like an easy choice to me. Doctor Doom, tons of ways you can go here. Clive Owen might be cool. He's getting a little old. He probably wouldn't have the longevity of the character. Nicola Coster-Waldau, you know, coming in hot off of his Game of Thrones popularity, he might do well with it. He'd be interesting to see there. But I think my number one pick is Zachary Quinto. I miss villain Zach from back in the days of Heroes. God damn, this video is going on longer than I expected. I haven't even started doing the X-Men yet. Well, this has gone on much longer than I anticipated. This was going to be one 20-minute video at most. There's too many characters, too many choices, and I made the mistake of casting everyone twice. So instead, what I'm going to do is, this is going to be a two-parter. There'll be a Fantastic Four casting video and an X-Men casting video. So what do you know? You just made it through the Fantastic Four video. Please let me know in the description what you think of those choices. Which ones do you think will or wouldn't work? Which was your favorite? Which was your least favorite of my picks? I really do just want to get into it. Please share all of your thoughts on this down below. I would love to talk about it. It's all I've been thinking about for a few days, so I'm ready to talk. We'll see. I don't really know what's going to become of Fantastic Four or X-Men in the coming years. It's pretty much a grab bag. So those are my choices for the Fantastic Four. If you guys thought that I did maybe a half-decent job and you're curious about what my casting choices for the X-Men might be, I'll have a link in the end card and in the description and all that to a part 2 where I talk about my casting choices for the X-Men. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.